che il mio aquilone normalmente era più piccolo dell'aquilone del mio amico vicino, che era figlio di un medico, e l'uovo di Pasqua che regalavano a lui era più grande del mio, per cui faceva aquiloni più grandi. E questo è stato il primo pensiero, diciamo, al quale sono arrivato da bambino attraverso gli aquiloni, sulle differenze sociali. Mio padre era un artigiano e non poteva permettersi di regalarmi un uovo più grande. A Cervia ho riscoperto gli aquiloni, diciamo un po' più tardi, parlo sempre di un'età infantile, al mare, quindi finalmente arriva al mare, finalmente il vento tranquillo che arriva dal mare, non solo in primavera ma un po' in tutto l'anno.
The coming out with the modern kites was in the early 70s. I've got a brother that's older than me, like 10 years older than me, and I think we had a present at Christmas, a book about kites, and there was many plans and design in the book. That's about the time when I really start making kites. And
Cervia, because we were invited. My father was invited first time in '96, and then we start to go every year there. And then that's the beginning of everything.
It was during my studying. I was in art school in Paris, and I think it was from a teacher. I spent a weekend with Fred in his house, and he had a stunt kite, big one, powerful, fast. That was the first one. Yeah.
Before, I am a painter. I make a studio of painting, and I want to see my painting with more distance. I use the wind for make my exhibition.
When I got kicked in the butt, I would say in Hawaii, when I first started making kites seriously.
All'età di 30 anni, 31 anni, i primi, e non volavano, erano aquiloni che erano troppo, probabilmente non avevo ancora capito bene perché volavano gli aquiloni e quindi avevo difficoltà a farli volare. Sì, penso verso l'età di, dopo i 30 anni ho costruito i miei primi aquiloni da adulto.
first kites were just like a eddy style kite, paper and wood, and glue. And that time we used flour glue flour with water, and yeah, very simple eddy kite with long paper tail and fabric tail. We cut fabric. We had a lot of fabric at home. My mother was good at sewing.
My first kite was probably a box kite that I made with my father when I was about that tall. Really tiny, really young.
My first kite is it's a classic canvas, and perhaps the first fly good is not one canvas. I use two canvas with a diode system, one page, one other page, two canvas with a wood system. On this, perhaps is my first kite. East fly.
My father and I and the family, we'd go out to the desert and fly just a very simple diamond-shaped kite made out of black plastic, scotch tape, string, sticks.
I can't remember. I think the first one was the one I make with my father when I was 4 in a plastic bag from the trash bag.
My first kite was probably a paper kite, which I built with my father about 60 years ago.
It was made by my grandfather. We flew there in the field behind. Yes, and then I lost the handle, of course, and then the kite was in the hazelnut. How you say hazelnut? Yeah, hazelnut tree. And then it was much fun to watch my grandfather climbing to get the kite. Yeah, that was the first one.
Gli aquiloni che preferisco sono forse gli aquiloni giapponesi, perché essendo un pittore ho trovato nell'aquilone giapponese un supporto alternativo per la mia pittura. E quindi e poi mi piacciono perché, non so, penso per esempio Edo Kite, con queste lunghissime briglie, già è meraviglioso, così è un aquilone stupendo, anche bianco semplicemente.
It's the Raymond of Ramlaltien. I love that one. And it's totally far from my style, but I love it.
My favorite kite is one of my favorite kites is Cody. That's clear enough. I'm very inspired by Cody, about the kite, and because of the character of the kite and the history.
My favorite kite is the kite that I'm working on presently. And also, as I'm working on it and spending so much time, of course, the love starts for that kite. And the love continues through the whole sewing and designing and making and planning out where the frame goes and wondering if it'll fly. And as soon as I take it out to the park for a test fly and find out that it doesn't fly very well, and in fact it spins around and crashes to the ground, then it becomes my least favorite kite.
You mean kite from, I think, would be, to be honest, I would say it's a kite from Claudio Capelli. It's a kite that's part of a big exhibition, international exhibition organized by Pauline Taylor, and it's big Edo, painted big Edo from Claudio Capelli, I think. If honest, there's many kites that I like, but I think if I have to say one of the best kite I know, it's one of Claudio Capelli.
My favorite kite? I don't know. My favorite kite. Shit. That's the next version of the Avatar I'm working on. It's a prototype existing for 3 years, but now I'm preparing a new one. Yeah, that's my favorite at the moment. And but single line would be kites from others, from other designers. The most magic one I saw was in Wildwood in '99. It was invisible, but you get a completely weird sound on the beach. So there it was fixed on one point and the guy was holding the other part, and this arch was maybe 1 centimeter thick and it was turning on itself. It was completely crazy design, but from 10 meters you could not see it in the sky, only you got the vibration, the sound. Yeah, that was crazy. It's one of my best memory of good design. Yeah.
I love some of Istvan Bodsky's kites and Anna Rubin's kites, the ones that are very abstract and look like they wouldn't fly. Those are my favorites.
My favorite kite is Edo for painting, but for flying is Rokaku. Rokaku, if I go to the island for a very long time, if I am Robinson, I have just one kite is Rokaku. But for painting, I prefer Edo.
Quale dei miei aquiloni in speciale? Non so se c'è fra i miei aquiloni un aquilone che preferisco. E normalmente è l'ultimo, quello che sto facendo. Così come succede nei quadri, dipingendo un quadro è sempre l'ultimo quello che ti interessa di più. Poi capita magari di rivedere un'opera che hai fatto tanti anni prima e scopri che ti piace ancora. Però normalmente sì, è l'ultimo che ho fatto, è quello che preferisco.
I'm not sure they are special, but if they are supposed to be special, the single line, I like that they don't look like a kite, first point. Second point, it's maybe because they became a kite, but first they were not designed to become a kite, it could have been something else. That's about single line. Stand kites I like at the moment, they are special because I use them, so I designed them for myself. That's what makes them special, because they were designed for my own use. Yeah.
Why your kite are so special?
Well, first, I'm a painter, so what I'm interested is painting that flies. So that's if you do go to kite festival, if you go to kite event in the world, there's not many people that use paint as a medium on a kite. Often there are people doing ripstop and they're doing applique technique. They will sew a piece of fabric together to make an image. But my specialty is painting. So they're canvas that flies. So that's my point. The idea is not to have a canvas like a real canvas like this and show it in the gallery, a museum. That's good. I think it's a good thing. But at the same time, what I like is to be able to put something painted like this in the landscape, in the very dramatic sky or the ocean or a mountain or close from a tree, something. That's my specific technique in kite. That's what I do and that's what I'm interested in.
Oh, they're not special to me. They might be special to other people, but special is a process. When I really like a particular design and I'm trying to make it a little better or changing the cover design, that's what makes it special for me.
Perhaps it's not a kite. Perhaps the ball on the couronne. It's a direction for the public. You can see my work on the hole of the ball. I make many kites on the sky, on fly. After, I like when the ball is between the spectator on my kite.
Oh, they're not special. They just are things that I make because I have to see if they'll look good in the sky. But I don't know if my kites are special. They're kind of simple. So maybe when I retire from teaching at university, I'll make my special kites.
I think my kites are special because of searching for simplicity. I search for simplicity in design and also in the technique, how to bridle them and how to fly them also. It's for the low winds, the zero winds. I'm more going to that direction right now.
My kites are special because they come from my soul. To make something more complex, to make it more simple and simple, from the natural shape to a design in a minimalistic way. That's what I would love to see in my work when it's really working.
Ma ho costruito i miei primi aquiloni insieme a mia madre quando ero bambino, forse a 4-5 anni. Non lo so per quanto tempo ho fatto volare aquiloni. Modern kite, adult kite, is from 30 years, like the festival.
I am 17 years, and now I have 63 years. It's a very long time.
When I started to make and flying kites and going to kite festival was in 96 or 97 for me, when we went to Czechia the first time. So I was 12.
So if you do the mathematics, if I told you I was 8, that's like 52 years of flying kites. If you do the mathematics.
Boy, that's a hard one to answer because I flew kites a lot when I was really little. And then as an adult, I've probably been flying kites for about 25 years.
Okay, I forget about the kid story when I was young, but I do fly kites regularly and building some and so on, using them often since 92, so it makes 27 years. Yeah.
A very long time. When I was 6, I started making kites. When I was 23 and 24, I went to Greece and flew kites there as a student project at a little art school on one of the islands in Greece.
I'm flying kites professional since the early 70s, but my first kite flying was 60 years ago. That was a long time ago.
What's your first kite? 30 years. Yeah.
My first kite as an adult was probably my flying househead man kite.
17 years.
When I flew my first kite, it was maybe 3 or 4 with my father. At 13, I start flying my own kites.
Yes, 7, 8 years old.
I was not old enough. 26, I really started making kites seriously.
I did fly my first kite when I was about 4 years old, I think.
No idea. Ask my mother if it was the small plane with the turning wings. I was probably 4, 5, 6 years old, maybe 7. I have no idea.
Oh, I love them all. I don't prefer one above the other. I think personally I like the kites that look back down at me. There would be that connection between a living creature up above that was flying and looking down at me on the ground, and me looking up at it. So it established a friendship. The best kites have that connection, and the string, of course, it pulling, and I like that the best.
So I don't like power kites. It's not comfortable. But what I prefer, I like both single line, stand kites. At the moment, I'm more into stand kites. Yes.
I prefer the single line kites, and especially when they're not that complex in building. So 1-point brittle I prefer instead of a lot of brittle points. But sometimes you have to do more than 1 point.
I prefer design kite. I mean, when there is an artistical process behind the kite. Yeah, so for me, I like this kind of material: paper, bamboo, and ink. But I also like some kites which are not made with the same materials.
I prefer when you have many different kites. I prefer when you two different kite, on different kite maker fly together. For me, it's the best.
I would say what I said about Anna Rubens and Istvan Bodskis, the ones that look like they wouldn't fly, the ones that kind of challenge the idea of what a kite is and aren't so symmetrical.
Well, I don't have like one kind of kite that I prefer. I think there's many different kites that are really good, and I won't say it's. I think I like the good kites, but they could be single line, they could be full line, they could be two line, they could be flat or cellular. I don't have a preference for one kind of kite.
Penso comunque che gli aquiloni siano un pretesto. Io non mi sono mai preso sul serio né quando dipingo, né quando costruisco aquiloni, e nemmeno quando organizzo questo festival internazionale di aquiloni. Perché penso che in fondo l'aquilone sia una scusa, un pretesto. Forse il più bel pretesto del mondo, ma è un pretesto. Per appunto, per quanto riguarda il festival, far sì che tanta gente che arriva da tutte le parti del mondo, tanti artisti possano ritrovarsi insieme e vivere insieme sotto lo stesso cielo, far volare le loro creazioni. È un pretesto. A volte incontro aquilonisti che invece si prendono sul serio, fanno seriamente gli aquiloni come se fosse una questione importante, no, della vita. Non è una questione importante, è una scusa, è una non banale, è una scusa bellissima, il pretesto è bellissimo. però l'idea è quella di stare insieme, cioè far un vecchio cantante italiano avrebbe detto l'aquilone è partecipazione, parlo di Giorgio Gaber, cioè è una bella scusa appunto per tenere insieme la gente.
I started making kites because I was a glider pilot, and it was difficult to build your own glider. Too complex. Every step you make, you need a stamp. And with kites, I can make my own forms and colors without without authority, without stamps. Freedom.
Why did I start making kites? Well, I made kites since I'm really young, but then after university, I had a lot of drawing in my sketchbook of kite, and I had a lot of sketch of painting and sketch of drawing, and then I say, how can I put those two realms together? How can I put those two worlds one? How can I put my drawing on a kite and be like flying it? At first I did, and it was really hard to find something that would stick to the ripstop, to the nylon as a paint. And but I try many different things. Now I can make just the painting, just say a face or a person or someone's head, and fly this alone, not a face on a rectangle kite.
Well, I mentioned that it was kind of an evolution from my photographic work. I was making things that were suspended and hanging from the ceiling. And then I wanted to make things that were not tethered from above, but flew from the ground.
It's a canvas kite, but it's not a good system. And many persons help me for that. And now it's very easy for me. I can make a Edo. It's more quickly for me. A canvas is not good.
I just gotten out of art school, and I was majoring in illustration and graphic design. And the combination of the craft and the design work and the graphic design and the string and the sticks and the paper and the materials and learning how to sew, that was another thing that inspired me to, well, I think I could make a kite now that I know how to sew. It made me learn how to sew a straight line. So my first kites were all straight lines. But yeah, I like the combination of all those things together in one object.
I was very young, involved in kite festivals, and because the kite festival where I was involved, they were full of artists, and I was totally falling in love with the work of people that I have around, so I really wanted to do something like that. Like, I think it's a good way to use for contemporary artwork. It's a kind of a sculpture, but it's a living sculpture, and it's inside of the nature and the landscape. So it's a mix of many things. It's good for performing. It has a lot of possibility as a art form. That's what I like about making kites.
I had this first experience with a big kite of my teacher, sculpture teacher, and then I attended the small kite festival, and then I've seen crazy things flying, and then it was completely clear I wanted to play with this. My first plan was to produce toys or things like this, but I had not any idea how to use them. But then when I've seen people spending weekends or part of their life building, designing kites, flying them, then yeah, it was clear I wanted to work in this direction.
Anzi, penso che no, non sapevo.
Retta di vento.
Raffica di vento.
Raffica di vento.
I would like to see
The future of kite in general? Well, I think it went up in the 70s, 80s, because people tried to fly
4-line or 2-line and 4-line kite, so that makes a big boom in kites. Then I think this went down a bit. There's less interest in this, but I think there will be an interesting development to performance act, like Cirque du Soleil is using kites inside, and they can show that kites could be used inside as a part of a play, part of a something like that, like what Cirque du Soleil is doing. I think that's one point where the future is good for kite, because the other thing is, I hope it's good because people can go outside and play outside, breathe good air, do something peaceful, something that doesn't make noise, doesn't make pollution, doesn't need gas, doesn't make any leaving it race, and go and instead of always going computer games, be outside, feel the air, feel the wind, feel the element, nature element. I think it's a good thing if people can do that. But I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say if this will happen, but I hope so.
The future of kites as a whole could be very interesting, because the Space Administration is experimenting with a lot of solar sail technology for carrying cargo to another planet very cheaply. You just put up a huge sail in space, and the aircraft, the spacecraft gets pulled by the solar winds to Jupiter, Saturn, the center of the galaxy, who knows? So, and it could even go at the speed of light if it was efficient enough. So the future of kites looks bright and shiny.
Now, I hope many person make new design of kite. For me, is not a good orientation for kite festival. Only inflatable kite, big kite, and I prefer go to the kite festival or Fano. For me, it's good. You have many make kite maker make different system, and the creative is not for artistic, but it's creative on self maker your kite. That is the future for me.
I would like to see more eyes looking at this and getting interested, to use them as a piece of art into the landscape, and to see the art of kite flying, design kite flying in the landscape and constructing an installation alive, something that is working with nature and with the wind. I hope it's going in this direction. That's what I'm interested in.
The future of kites, they will always exist. I hope it will not go extremely in the blow-up things, so the pilots with the laundry, because that's not my thing. Making new shapes and see what the kite does under certain circumstances. And with the new materials, that's very interesting. The old materials and the new materials, I use all the range. So from leaves, feathers, to the modern carbon, Kevlar, Aramida, give it a name. Yeah? Carbon.
Well, I hope that it keeps evolving, because I love the interaction that happens between cultures. There are lots of cultures that have had kites as part of their vocabulary for many years, and I think it's really great when the international kite festivals happen, so people get together and they start making things based on kites that they've seen from other cultures. So I like the conversation, and I hope that the conversation with kites continues.
Tyrus Wong, who's a very famous kite maker, artist, illustrator, he told me a few years back when he was still alive that the secret to long life is flying kites. It makes you happy. And Tyrus Wong, look up Tyrus Wong. There's a lot of information about him. He lived until he was 107 years old, so that's proof.
The future of kite. Kites don't need to have a future. I mean, future of kites. Okay, of course there are these stories about energy, some kites producing energy, Future is that people still enjoy them. Don't see other reason to use kite. Well, of course. Yeah, I know about the technical stuff, but it seems like energy to use them for boats and so on, but that's not so. This kind of story comes because we need new kind of energy, so this may be a future for kite. But kite itself that can be used by kids or by even for adults just because you enjoy them, yes.
Many more kites and much more opportunity of learning and to get influenced and inspired by really good artists. That's what I want to see, good stuff, and be able to work with people which I fall in love with their art. That's what I want.
Well, yeah, my kites. I think I will keep making kites. I've got kind of two production, real painting and kites. Both are pushing one further than before. My painting skill, I think, is getting better, and my kiting is getting good too. So I think those two parts of my work help me go do better thing or keep doing it because I still enjoy it and I got things to learn. So yeah, I've got more things to learn, and I'm still surprised when I go to Kite Festival to find new thing. Someone's doing something different. Someone doing a little thing with a different twist in it. So and that keep me making kites and yeah, participating in Kite Festival.
I want to use painting more, and I hope I can use no more toxic painting. That is for me, it's important. I like make that with a kite with a spar. On other time, I like also make a ball. A ball you have no, it's not exactly a kite. Painting kite is Edo. Sculpturing kite is a ball for me. J'ai envie. J'ai envie. C'est important.
I really hope in the future that they fly better. I think almost all of my kites are experiments, and that's one of the things that I really like about the process of kite making. That it might fly a little bit funny to one side, or there's always room for improvement, and also experimentation. I'd like to experiment with cellular kites, for instance, or maybe even, I hate to say it, inflatables. Ones that are maybe funnier, or some, more abstract kites. I'm always up for something different.
Getting to make them lighter. So I started with the heavy kites, and I'm going to the ultralight kites. And I think the next period will be also with the natural materials, with leaves, and make nice patterns and fly them inside the woods or something like that, in a natural environment. I think that's a new goal for me on this moment.
Mine, you mean my design? I get orders, I produce them, I sell them. Because I use them, but people like to get them because maybe they think they are beautiful, or maybe they think they are efficient, fly well, or maybe they like the quality of the made, how it is made. I don't know, but as long as people like them.
Much wackier, much crazier.
Okay.
I've pretty much just made primarily the ohashi kites the last several years, but I'm a lot more interested in making things that are more sculptural and abstract. So that's where I would like to go.
I forget the question. It's a really good question.
Well, I got the answer.
You forget the question.
Yes.
Ah, so.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes.